Today we're going to start learning about systems of linear equations. So up until this point, we've been dealing with single equations at a time, so just one linear equation at a time. So a system of linear equations is when you have two or more linear equations. That makes a system of linear equations. So it doesn't matter what your two equations are. If you use two equations, you've created a system. So if I wanted to randomly create my own system, I would just make up two random equations, and that would be my system of equations. I'm sure you could write two other ones. They're all going to be systems of equations. Okay, so we're going to start by just learning to practice finding a system of equations from tables. So in number one, you've been given two tables. These are two separate equations. So you can either write your equation by using stat edit two different times, or you can write your equations by looking for the y-intercept and the slope for the first table and write the equation, and then the y-intercept and the slope for the second table. So go ahead and pause your video and write the two equations that go with this table. Okay, so when you're looking, I just went ahead and found my y-intercept, which was 0, and then saw that my table was going down by 2. That's how I got my first equation. And in the second one, I found out my y-intercept was plus 2.5, and that my table was actually getting bigger by 1.5. So that's how I got my two equations. Okay, go ahead and pause the video and get your two equations for the two tables in number 2. This gives you great practice in finding equations from tables. Once you have your two equations, start the video back up for the explanation. Okay, again, for both of these, I just used the fact that I had a y-intercept of 1 and that I could see that my table was getting bigger by 3 each time. So 3x plus 1, and then on the second one I had a y-intercept of 5, and I could see my table was going down by 1, so negative 1x. Now, numbers 3 and 4 are just asking you to examine these two tables and see what point is shared in both tables. So on the first one, we can see that we have a negative 1, 2 in both of the tables. And in our second one, we can see that we have a 1, 4 in both of our tables. What this means in a system of equations is whatever point two lines share, that's the intersection, that's called our solution. So I'm just going to write solution right here beside it. That's our solution. Okay, now we can also find our system of equations from getting equations from the graphs. So on number 6, 7, and 8, we've got 3 different graphs. And just looking at each one, we can see our solution pretty easily in 2 of them. We can see our solution on number 6. We can see our solution on number 7. On number 8, they're parallel lines. So what kind of solution do you think number 8 has? Well, give that one some thought. What I want you to do is on number 6, I want you to write the equation for both lines. So the first line, I'm going to look, it's a positive line. I can see that my y-intercept is negative 2. I can also pick a second point and do my rise over run. So I'm going to rise 2 and run 2. So my slope is 2 over 2, which is the same as 1. So my first equation is y equals x, 1x, minus 2. Now, my second line, the one that is going downhill, this one doesn't show me obviously where it's hitting the y-axis, so I'm going to just pick 2 points off of this. I'm going to pick, well, I can use my solution, which is negative 2, negative 4, and I can use my x-intercept. So I'm going to use these 2 points right here, I'm going to pause my video and stat edit those 2 points to get the equation for my second line. So go ahead and pause your video to get the equation as well, and then start it back up. Okay, so what we came up with when I stat edited those 2 points was y equals negative 4x minus 12. And I can see pretty easily that it is definitely a slope of negative 4 over 1, and it's probably going to hit somewhere down here, which would be our negative 12. Okay, and if I were asked for the solution for this system, my solution is this guy right here where the 2 lines cross together, which is negative 2, negative 4. That's our solution. Okay, so I want you to practice getting the equations for both lines in number 7. Write both equations and write the solution. Pause your video to do this and then check back for the explanation. Okay, so I wrote my 2 equations, the red line being my negative slope line and the blue one being my positive slope line, and my solution is where the 2 lines intersect. Okay, the last one is number 8, and I can already see from looking at this that these are parallel lines. So they're never ever going to meet, so they're going to be no solution.